I'm Marilyn. I'm the ELA PT Center Director, and I am co-facilitating today with, as you probably all know, she's been helping you, Pam Dempsey-O'Connell, and she is our wonderful instructional design person. So again, welcome to the introduction to the ELA Proficiency Guide. We're really glad that you joined us today. And before we begin, someone's mic is still open or your phone is not muted. Could you please all try to mute either your mic on the computer or mute your phone? Thank you. So anyways, before we begin, I really just want to say that Pam and I hope that you are all healthy, that you're safe, and most importantly is that you're maintaining your sanity. So we did send you all the electronic links to documents that you will need for today's training. We hope that you were able to download them or print them. But if you were unable to do that, don't worry about it. We have you covered, and we have screenshots for most of the pages that we will be referring to during the training. And seeing as you all look like you're really getting well acquainted with the chat box, this training today really is to help you. So at any time during this presentation, please post any questions that you have in the chat box. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Pam, and she's going to continue for a bit, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay, good afternoon and welcome. I'll add my welcome to Marilise. This is our agenda for today's training. We're going to be looking at the Massachusetts Professional Standards for Teachers of Adult Education and Indicators of Proficiency rubric that accompanies it. We're also going to be doing an exploration of the ELA Proficiency Guide. My guess is many of you have taken a look at the Massachusetts Professional Standards for Teachers of Adult Education. Probably in a training, the professional adult educator is diving into that. So we're going to introduce you to our document, the ELA Proficiency Guide. So the objectives today are to explain the similarities and differences of the Massachusetts Professional Standards for Teachers of Adult Ed and the ELA Proficiency Guide, and identify the content and format of the ELA Proficiency Guide. First, you have to, and I don't know about you folks, but I found it was real crazy when everything was closing down, and I actually got caught off guard and did not have the documents with me. But you can find the Massachusetts Professional Standards for Teachers of Adult Education on the ACLS website, and I've just put it into the chat box in case you haven't found it before. So this is the educator effectiveness, and I've put a red square right around the document you're interested in. The next document we're going to be working with can be found on the ELA Professional Development Center site on the SABE's site. So this is what it looks like when you land on our webpage. You got to scroll down. You have to take a moment, and a lot of people don't like to scroll down, but to find the ELA Proficiency Guide, you're going to want to scroll down, and it will be in the resource section towards the bottom of the page, and I put a box around it. And also, if you have not had a chance to sign up for notifications from the ELA PD Center, this is where you could click on this, sign up for notifications, and the Communications Center will notify you when things come up dealing with the ELA PD Center. We want to go on to the ELA Proficiency Guide. You click on the link and it will take you to the web page where it has everything that goes with the ELA Proficiency Guide. It has the 2 documents. Actually, it's the 1 document, but you have the option of the PDF or the Word. The other thing that you will find here, and you will hear about throughout this presentation, is there is a companion document, and the companion document is the glossary. If you don't have our ELA Proficiency Guide, this is where you would find it. So we're going to move on and start diving into the document. We're first going to start with the Massachusetts Professional Standards for Teachers of Adult Education. And this is actually a companion tool for the EGE model. If your program is using the EGE model in the EGE training, the ELA PD Center has trained coaches to help support your EGE initiative. And if you have any other questions about the EGE model, please reach out to Luann Teller, the director of the Program Support Center. Patricia's just asked what the EGE model is. It is an initiative for its educator growth. Marilee, help me. Educator growth and
Evaluation. Sorry, I had to mute my phone. It's mostly for your directors to have participated in. So maybe they have mentioned it to you, or apparently not.
We're going to move on deeper into this document now. So we're going to look at the relationship of the Massachusetts Professional Standards for Adult Education. That and its relationship to the Proficiency Guide. The Professional Standards was the first document. And so you would find this particular chart at a glance in the Proficiency Guides explaining it. The Professional Standards was the first document, and then it essentially gave birth to the Proficiency Guides. When you start diving into the Proficiency Guides and the Professional Standards, you're going to see this chart here. This is for an at a glance. This is the chart. Here you can see the 3 domains of the professional standards. There's the professional knowledge domain designated by a K, instructional practice domain designated with a P, and the continuous improvement domain designated with a C. Under each domain, these standards, there are 2. There is in the professional knowledge, the K1 and K2. This is P1, P2. Continuous improvement is C1 and C2. You see here I've framed 2 of them, K1.1 and K2.2 on the bottom. If you read in there, it says that it's specific to English for speakers of other languages. It looks like there's 3 indicators, and there's really only 2. It's just they've made it specific for ABE or ESOL. All right, so now just real quick, using the chat room, what are the 3 domains? What are the 3 domains that are found in the Massachusetts Professional Standards for Teachers of Education? So you're welcome to use the letters. I just gave you the letters. You're welcome to put in the chat room the letters. Okay, yep, they're coming in. Great. KPC, you got it, knowledge, practice, continuous improvement. And the K is fully professional knowledge domain, and the P, instructional practice domain, and then continuous improvement. Again, working with those acronyms, it's like a special language we have. So now we have the 2 documents side by side. The Massachusetts Professional Standards for Teachers of Adult Education on the left, and on the right is the English Language Arts Proficiency Guide. At first glance, you can't tell the difference. You can't. I'm always confused, and I actually have a printed out copy of them, and I've written in red to show me the ELA Proficiency Guide. This is the Massachusetts Professional Standards and the ELA Proficiency Guide. And what I'm going to do now is hand you to Marilee so she can help you dive deeper into the professional guide. And just for your information, Marilee was part of the team who created this particular document. So, Marilee, your turn.
Thanks, ma'am. I'm so glad that we're not in person, because if you don't like this document, I don't want you to throw tomatoes at me. So, yes, this document has been in the process. I don't know how many years to get this to completion, but it was released last August, and I'm really proud of this document, and I hope that you will really find it useful by the end of this presentation. So now, as Pam said, we are now moving more into the ELA Proficiency Guide. So if you look at that little box that's in black, and it does say Organization of the ELA Proficiency Guide, I hope that you're noticing something that is the same from the Massachusetts Professional Standards. What do you see here that looks exactly the same as the Massachusetts Professional Standards for Teachers? Could you please write it in the chat box? So what looks the same from both of these documents? The domains are actually the same. And as Pam had said, the first document was the Massachusetts Professional Standards, and they gave birth to the different proficiency guides for ELA, for ESOL, and for math. So that is why the domains are all the same. What else looks familiar to you that's on this organization chart of the proficiency guides besides the domains? What else? Yes, the standards. Exactly. The standards are the same. Anything else look the same? There's something else that looks the same too. It's the indicators. The indicators are the same. So that's great. Good. Thank you, Pam. I think we can move on to the next slide now. College and career, the standards. Yes. So just to be clear, right now we're taught the standards that we are talking about are the standards from the ELA Proficiency Guide. We're going to get to the college and career readiness standards a little bit later. And Pam, to just answer your statement there, they are included in this proficiency guide. So we just need to make sure which standards that we are talking about. So from here on in, we are really now only going to be focusing on our ELA Proficiency Guide. So if you can just put away the Massachusetts Professional Standards, for now that would be great. We're working only in the Proficiency Guide. Next, please. Okay, so here is sort of the breakdown of what's in the ELA Proficiency Guide. So these are the sections that are not found in the Massachusetts Professional Standards for Teachers and are customized for the ELA Proficiency Guide. So they are just specific to our ELA guide, and they include everything that is on the slide above, and we are going to now go through each of these one at a time. So here you see, we just arbitrarily picked one page from the document for you to see, and it happens to be page 19. If you have it either as a download or if you printed it, you can refer to it as I talk about it, or it's right here on the screen for you. So this is the instructional practice domain P. Here you see standard P1, design and instruction. So I am in that little tan box, and in case if you can't read it, because it is small, I'm going to read it to you, and this is all what this standard is all about. P1, design and instruction. It uses the knowledge of the adult education state standards to guide the designs of academically rigorous instruction that makes knowledge and skills accessible to all students and facilitates mastery of adult learning standards, incorporates a variety of differentiated instructional methods that engage adult learners in challenging but accessible tasks, support the development of critical thinking, and accommodate diverse needs. So that's what that standard is all about. Is there anything else that you can see on that page that's right below that box? Supporting explanation. Someone got it. It's, no, in the box, you're all right, but what I was trying to get at, I do see there's instructional shifts, complexity, evidence, the CCRSAE, you're all correct. But what I was looking for, and someone did get it, supporting explanation. That was really what I wanted, but you all got even in further detail. Pam has just boxed it out. And in our ELA Proficiency Guide, there is supporting explanation for each standard. And what this does is it provides a brief narrative and introduces each standard, grounding the expectation in research and theory. And the explanation provides an overview of why the standards and its indicators are relevant to ELA instruction and points practitioners to areas to explore more in depth. So other than just putting the standards out there, we provided you with some explanation about that. So it helps you a little bit more to understand what is happening in each of those standards. Now we're going to move forward and look at a different picture, and we're on page 22 right now, and here's another one in the practice domain. It's P1.1, standards-based units. And so here it explains what this is all about for the indicator, design and or uses instructional units aligned to the CCRSA, or if you're talking about the Massachusetts English language, that would be the MELPS. So that's for ESOL, but they wouldn't be using these necessarily. And the program scope and sequence. Academically rigorous units define clear evidence of outcomes and include differentiated learning experiences that enable all students to learn the knowledge and skills defined in the state standards. So here also underneath this now, and you will find this on every page, it is what effective ELA teachers know in one column, and then the next column is what effective ELA teachers do. And what is here is it provides, these items provide concrete examples of the knowledge and skills needed by ELA teachers for each indicator. They provide a lot of detail, as you can see here, but they are not meant to be, of course, an exhaustive list and in scope. So for instance, let's look at B there, where it says what effective ELA teachers know. Unit level learning outcomes aligned to the CCRSAE. Level specific standards focus and guide instruction and assessment. So that's what the ELA teachers know. But now, here's what they do with that information. Write measurable unit level learning outcomes that align with the CCRSAE level specific standards and target higher order thinking and knowledge building. Next bullet. Ensure each unit includes a mixture of reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and language standards. And the last bullet, include formative and summative assessments of the targeted ELA standards. And that's also mentioned under P3 in the assessment part. So that's just keeping to break down the ELA Proficiency Guide. The indicator, what effective ELA teachers know, and what effective ELA teachers do. So here's also something that's in our Proficiency Guide. It has a research and resources for each domain, and you can see that on page 32. So at the end of each domain is a list of articles, books, and websites. And these links are live if you have an electronic copy available to you. And the other online resources that practitioners might find helpful in furthering their own professional development in the specific areas of ELA. So not only does it really give good research and resources, if you're looking for PD that might support you in doing this, this will also help you. And then we have a glossary. So a glossary of terms are also used in the ELA Proficiency Guide, and that is a separate document. And you can find that just where Pam had taken you earlier on our Sawbase website. And why we decided to include the glossary as a separate document, the ELA Proficiency Guide is already up to 43 pages long. And if we added the 20-something glossary to this document, we really felt it would make the document too unruly and too long. So after all, our goal is to make this useful to you. Okay, so now there are lots of things that happen in this ELA Proficiency Guide. So why do you think, and you can write your answer in the chat box, why are some of the ideas repeated? Why do you think we took the time to have them mentioned more than once? Yes, thank you. Yes, to emphasize, to show they are important, students to learn, reinforcement, so they will be internalized. You're absolutely correct. So for instance, differentiation is mentioned in several places. It references to culminating projects, text selection, and assessment are also found in multiple times. This redundancy is due to everything that you really just said, that it was to show importance. The key concepts related to ELA instruction do warrant repetition and reinforcement. And as somebody did say, so that they're internalized or they're embedded into your learning. And why do you think something is, again, multiple times? We got repetition, but multiple reasons for doing something. Why do you think that would be mentioned? And you can write it in the chat box. And hint, exactly, varied learning methods, many valid reasons for doing this, and it's the same thing as what we were talking about, the repetition. It's because they're important. We want it to be embedded into your teaching so that you will help your students. Great. Does anyone have any questions up until this point? Because then we're going to go into a deeper and closer look. I'll give you a second or two. It takes you longer to type than it does for me to speak. So if you have any questions, Okay, so Pam, I think we can move on to closer look. So here we go again into the closer look. Now you've seen this before, and you can review the ELA Proficiency Guide for a few minutes if you just to review this chart, and you can look at page 7 or just stay here because if you have a copy of it downloaded. I'm going to test your knowledge right now, and can you just type your answers into the chat box? How many standards are there? Okay, so let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, the 6 people win. How many domains are there? This should be easy. 3. Yep, great. Great. So now let's go into the professional knowledge domain. Yeah. Tell me in the chat box, please, what is standard K.1? Theory and research. That is the K.1. Very good. Yep, now you're all getting it. Great. What is K.2? Standards. Great. Good job. What is P1? I'm now moving into instructional practice. What is P1? Good. Design and instruction. So what is standard P2? Right. Oh, you're all getting that one. Great. I think you're getting the layout of this document. And now we're moving into the continuous improvement domain. What is C1? Yes, growth mindset. And last one, what is C2? It is reflective practice. So that's pretty much an overview of what you will be able to find in this document. The domains, the standards, and then the indicators. So now we're going to move on. What we're going to do, and don't worry if you don't have the document, it will be on the next slide for you to see. We are in the P1.2 well-structured lessons. I'm going to give you a few minutes to read that, and then, so I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes, which is very difficult for me to do. For those of you who know me, know that's true. And I'm going to ask you to pick one of these under what an effective ELA teacher knows, one from A, B, C, or D that resonates for you. Just select one, and then after you tell me which one you selected, tell me why you selected that one, please. Yeah, good. Inclusion of technology allows for digital literacy. I can't read these fast enough. Long-lasting understanding, build transferable skills, inclusion of technology. Great. And so the inclusion of program today everyone is on. Yes, we all need to do that now. We've all had to adjust to online learning quickly. Technology is the most relevant in our current times. Yes, Steve, you are correct. And the world might be heading to. Also, the adult learners really struggle with using technology, as do a lot of the teachers. So did anything like really resonate with you, give you an aha moment, maybe something that was new? overall impressions of this one little page that we just pulled out to share with you? Good. Good. I'm glad. There are many good tips here. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to the next slide. And this slide really is just a quick summary of everything that I've already talked about. And so it's a review of what we've already covered. So adult education teachers will find several ways this document can contribute to their teaching. And again, this was based on those Massachusetts professional standards for teachers. That's a very broad document, but it doesn't have the specifics. So in the ELA Proficiency Guide, the standards, it shows you how these standards actually apply in an ELA classroom. So the ELA Proficiency Guide reflects current research and understanding of what effective adult teachers know and can do. The resources provided may also help practitioners explore targeted topics in more depth. And ultimately, the goal for all of us is to improve and accelerate, students' outcomes. And both the Massachusetts Professional Standards and the ELA Proficiency Guide directly support the achievement of those outcomes. Isn't that what we're all about? Moving our students forward and seeing faster and better outcomes. So now, people who are directors, lead teachers, how do you think this document may be useful to you? Yes, this is great. You could use it to guide teacher evaluations. Same thing, employee evaluations. It could help you to train a new teacher coming into your program. Check it out for professional development and staff meetings. We're here if you need us, and just give me a call. Great. Guide teacher for PD plans, provide guidance, create a curriculum, help teachers adapt the lessons. Great answers. So it could also serve, as I think we have hit upon, in helping directors and teachers to collaborate to enhance their ELA instruction. Yes, covering all the bases. And it's also a good tool for directors too, and I think we maybe hit on this, or you hit on it a little bit earlier, as a tool to aid in hiring a new teacher, supervising your current teachers, and evaluating your staff. And I know we had this one too, providing guidance on professional development activities, either individually or it could be used collectively to teach, to focus on something that the entire staff in a program might need help with. So there's just one more piece that we want to share with you on the next slide about the ELA Proficiency Guide. I think when Pam and I first started to talk about this was here. No one mentioned it, which is great because we wanted it to kind of be a dramatic surprise for you. So there is that last column where Pam is highlighted in red. It's check focus. This serves as a self-assessment tool for your teachers, for you as teachers to look at and put a check in an area for what an effective ELA teacher knows and what an effective ELA teacher do. You can check that off if you think you might need a little bit more PD in that area. So this serves as a self-assessment guide for you. And there is one on the ACLS website right now, and that's different than this one because ACLS has been unable to update their website because they have to go through a lot more process than I think we have to do in Sabe. So if you're looking for the self-assessment guide, make sure you get this through our ELA website through Sabe so that you have the right document. So before we move on to another section of the training, I'm going to ask you a couple of the questions again to just see if you've been paying attention. How many domains are there in our ELA Proficiency Guide? Yeah, great. And how many standards are there for each of the domains? 2 per domain. You were all right. There's 6 total and 2 per domain. Oh, you guys have been paying attention. So now here's a little bit more complicated question. Name something that is in the ELA Proficiency Guide that was not in the Massachusetts Professional Standards. Okay, the check focus, supporting explanation, explanation and examples. The focus, yep, check focus. Remember, it's check focus. For the self-assessment, explanations, supporting explanations, great. Self-assessment, great. Well done, everyone. Well done. Okay, so now we're going to change a little bit to something different. We're going to talk about what do you think makes an effective ELA teacher. So take a few minutes to think about it and then write it in the chat box, please. Flexibility, great. Tools and hand proficiently, planning and knowing your students' ability, the work results in students' perseverance. And I can't read them this fast. Oh, great. Knowing your students' strengths and weakness, passion about reading and language combined with skills, breaking them down, lower the affective filter, great. Anyone else? Good grasp of the standards, flexibility, able to modify, varied instructional strategies, ongoing learning. These are all great. Someone who can bring the content to a meaningful place for students, able to differentiate the instruction. Great. So we're going to move on now. We're going to kind of give you not that what we're saying are the right answers to this question, but these are questions that are built in to the ELA Proficiency Guide, and these answers are all grounded in our ELA Proficiency Guide. So these are 3 questions for you to think about. Are students learning? What is the teacher doing that contributes to and supports the learning? And I think all of the answers that you did put in there, what makes an effective ELA teacher, can connect to everything that's here. And what else might the teacher do to enhance student learning? If you want to make a note of that, it can be found on page 6 of the ELA Proficiency Guide, and the guide does answer and support all of those questions. Great. So now we're going to show you a video of a teacher demonstrating a comprehension lesson using close reading technique. So all we're doing here is showing you a 5-minute excerpt. But on the slide in blue at the very bottom on YouTube is a link to the full 16-minute video. It's a really good video of the teacher demonstrating this close reading strategy. And I'm going to just give you a little background about this classroom before we show it. So this is an ABE classroom down south, and you will hear a very strong Southern accent. So his question to his students are, should tweens have cell phones? as I said, it took me a couple of takes of rewind session to get there. I kept thinking he kept saying, should twins have cell phones? So it is, should tweens have cell phones? So now we're going to see a short excerpt about that class.
Do tweens need their own cell phones?
No.
I chose technology because I found one article that I really liked that had two components with the driverless car. So with that article, I've stayed around there and thought, well, we'll go into cell phones. We'll go into digital assistants. So do tweens need their own cell phones? Just hold up our cards. Should I buy my 8-year-old an iPhone? Okay, no. Which is what she asked Santa this year for Christmas.
No. Flip phone.
No.
Flip phone.
Just pick one up. Oh, but she loves Siri and how she listens. Oh, I see. So there's a yellow packet, and it has an article titled, Do Kids Need Their Own Cell Phones? So for this one, I'd like you to work in groups of 2. You'll have to join one side or the other. And same for you, Laura. You'll have to join one of those groups. That way we'll have groups of 3. All right. So use your close reading strategies. Go through there. And remember, if it is a pro, we underline. If it's a con, circle.
But parents are usually the ones buying the phones and paying the bills. Oh, that's neither.
With nonfiction text, it's important to be able to determine the evidence presented before you, to look through the facts and find things that support the claim. Being able to determine that this is my evidence, this is this point, not just me saying this is what I feel. Being able to support themselves in evidence will help them achieve their success.
And like right here,
I'm not seeing any
what Brandy is
underlining.
I'm talking.
Well, that's our
I've completely got him convinced why cell phones are not okay. I mean, flip phones are okay. Prepaid cell phones are okay. But
we're going with the evidence that we have, and that's what we're going with. All right?
well, sorry, I was giving my opinion.
I know.
Hey, that's like with this.
Nothing wrong with your opinion. But for this assignment, we need to look on.
What were we underlining again?
Underline the pros.
Okay.
So reasons
Well,
for
what if I
it.
went for all cons already?
But that's all you see.
I've done pro and con.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what me and Angie
Yeah, that's just like with this Alba
I would go around and check and see who was underlining what, circling what, keep them on track, make sure that they are finding both pros and cons. When we're talking about evidence, the importance of evidence is not what you think, what you feel, it's what you have in the document. So,
I don't know, my 3 kids, as long as they got Wi-Fi, they're in the house. You don't have to worry about them, like, being kidnapped or anything like that.
when you look on, underline the pros. So reasons for
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I didn't get to those 2 that you got that I'm getting playing outside. It's the con because the 8-year-olds, when we were little, all we did was play outside.
All right. On the left-hand side of your paper, there are 3 white sheets of paper. I want you to take 2. You have the one just in case you mess up. On one sheet, I want you to write evidence for a pro. And on the other sheet, I want you to write evidence for a con. Okay? You can pick whichever ones you want to discuss to your partner, so you're all writing different ones.
Does it have to be something that was in the paper?
Something, it is evidence, so it has to be written down. Off of that one, yes. We are doing the ones with cell phones. So a pro tween cell phone, a con tween cell phone.
One of each.
One of each. You have to do one pro and one con. And it's got to be textually supported.
Is it going to be for the blue paper and the yellow paper?
Just the yellow paper.
Yeah.
We're just focused on the yellow paper.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I know this is ironic, but neatness counts.
Oh, now we're the master of handprint.
That's right. All right, one on each paper. That's why there's two. There you go.
There's three. I have three.
Yeah, I put that. I planned for it.
Thanks, Pam. So there's just a snippet of a close reading strategy. So what did you think of that video that we just watched? But more importantly, I want to see if you can connect that to anything that we just sort of briefly, and it was very briefly, discussed from the ELA Proficiency Guide. And I'm going to give you a hint that you're going to find that in the practice, the instructional practice P domain. Student engagement, yeah. He seemed to chunk, page 3 chunking, yeah. Well-structured lesson, observing students' work, maybe differentiated instruction. And I'm not, I think you may be entered too soon. Used appropriate material, student engagement. What else from the shifts? Did you see anything that he did with the shifts? Yep, provided support, well-structured, differentiated. What about the 3 shifts from the CCRS-AE? Did he say to one of the, or to all of his students about their answer? He wanted their answers to reflect something from the reading. Yes, evidence. Yes. Good. Use textual support. Evidence. Great. Very good. We got there together. Really great. So what did you think of the video? Do you think he was an effective ELA teacher? He really is a really effective ELA teacher, and will use some of his strategies. Right, and that's what it is. His pros and his cons about the should tweens have a cell phone. He was making them go back to the reading to form their evidence, and in the longer clip, I think it was that same student that we're still talking, giving him not a tough time, but was kind of doing it more her own way. He kept reflecting her back to the reading. He kept saying, your opinion is important, but right now we want evidence from the reading. Yeah, right. We only showed a really snippet from this video. We didn't want to take you 16 minutes through. And really, Lorianne, you're absolutely correct. He just kept directing them back to the reading. What does the evidence from the reading say? Not your opinion. So I really like this. But like I said, we're trying to put a close reading training together. So hopefully we will put this back. We'll be able to put this together. He knew his students. Yes, he did. He's a very effective teacher. I agree with all of you. Did he ask their personal opinion first? I'm not. And that's okay. You can ask their opinion, but then when they're going to really do the actual work, they need to come up with the evidence from the writing or the reading that they have. So here we are. We're almost at the end of the training. We did book this in for 2 hours because we were not sure how long this would take. And no one ever complains if you end earlier, but if you end up going overtime, people don't like that. So we're almost at the end of our training. I just want to reiterate something that Pam had said in the very beginning. We do have trained ELA coaches who even at this time will be able to help support you in this ELA Proficiency Guide. Either it will all be virtually, it could be on the phone, it could be emails, and it could set up a virtual meeting through Zoom, or we can even get you through Blackboard if we need to. So when we were doing our coaching training way back, I think that was in December that we did this training thinking that our world was going to be normal, which of course we now know this is our new norm. So one of the coaches, as Pam and I were going through this training, came up with something that I wanted to share with you today because I think it was really interesting what she said. And here's what she said. The CCRSAE, our standards document, is the what to teach. But the ELA Proficiency Guide now, as she said, fills in the gap. It tells us how to teach those standards. I think that's really good, the what and the how. Please write in the chat box, just take a few minutes and tell me, how would you use this document? Or even more importantly, would you use this document? And if you say yes, how would you? Great. Lesson planning. Help to plan in a consistent way. Self-evaluation. Own self-reflect, right? It would help with lesson planning, evaluating instruction, discussions with staff. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you are finding ways that you can use it. Professional development, self-evaluation. Yep, exactly. It will really help in evaluating the curriculum, the scope and sequence, designing program development, right? If you're part of the EGE model that's going on, and that's the Educated Growth and Evaluation. Yes, there is a similar document that is in the Math PD Center's webpage. They have their own document. We have one, ELA has one, Math has one, and ESOL is working on one now because they changed over to the MELPs. So they were well on their way and then now have to step back and reconnect those dots. But yes, all the CNI PD centers will have these tools. Last questions before we're going to sign off. So reach out to me if anyone has any questions about how to get an ELA coach to help you through this. This is our information, and we hope that you found this useful. I think it's great that you took the time. I hope you found this very short overview of the standards helpful to you. And again, any questions, please reach out to us. Keep checking the Sabes ELA webpage because we're putting lots of things out there as quickly as we can develop and create them. We really are trying to help you to support your students in our new world of COVID-19 reality. Thank you everyone so much. Please stay safe, healthy, and like I said, maintain your sanity. Thank you.